for September 13th, 2023. And 7 o'clock, we have 146 Westboro Road, minor modification, DP number 311-0797, change of wetland crossing layout. So, Mary, would you like to explain this to us?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. And so this is really lot 3 and 4 Westboro Road instead of 146. And I'll just pull up the plans. And Mr. Bedrosian is here, I believe.
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you are. Great.
I'm here.
And I'm going to pull up, this is the original plan just to kind of help remind you of what this project was. This one's hard to read, but so here you can see that here's the road, Westboro Road. Here's one driveway going into the lot, and there's the house is over here somewhere. This is lot 3, I guess, and this is the other driveway going in to lot 4, and right here is a wetland crossing, and there's wetland replication. So this is the plan that we approved, and Mr. Bedrosian would like to do a different driveway configuration, which will end up being cheaper for him and have a little bit less wetland impact. So that is good. So here's his new configuration. So basically he has the driveways right on either side of the lot line going in. That means that the driveway for lot 3 is much further away from the wetland. There's still a crossing, but instead of, I think it was 3,350 feet to be filled, it's 3,050 feet to be filled. So it's like 300 feet less. He put the same replication area on there. I think potentially you could cut out, about 300 square feet or so to have less impact on the area, but but that's not drawn here. So this could have been addressed as an amendment. I did talk to Chris, and she thought it might be okay as a minor modification. It does have a full plan here that which is changed. And if you guys want to look at the original again, I think, in my opinion, it's better in every way. And the roadway is just slightly narrower there, which is why the crossing is less.
Do any of the commissioners have questions?
Mary, is it one driveway, a shared driveway, or is it 2 separate driveways?
It's 2 separate driveways. There's a gap at the lot line, so it's two distinct driveways, one on each side of the boundary.
Okay, thank you.
And the filling, we reduced, so he had a 10-foot space between the driveways, and I reduced that to 2. So that's where the reduction in filling occurred.
Do you have any other questions from the commission?
I guess in my mind, something the commission might want to consider is whether we would recommend for him to reduce the size of the replication area to be, maybe 3,100 square feet. Although I don't know whether that we would maybe have to have the engineer reflect that on some plans. But it would be less alteration of because this is all undisturbed area in here.
What do people think about that change?
I'm not opposed to that at all.
I agree that reducing the amount would be a positive thing. Do you have any comments from the commission?
None.
Any com- Do you have any questions from the audience? Please just let us know your name. So would the commission like to vote to approve the change as a minor modification? Let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote of the members present. And let's do a vote to see if you want to reduce the large area of the wetland replication area. Chris, aye.
Tom, I.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
That's a unanimous vote of the members present. So we would need a new set of plans that would show the reduced area for the replication area as well.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
think, Daniel, that you'd want to cut it off at this end.
Okay,
I would think because the edge of the wetlands is here, and I don't know why they don't have it against the wetland here, but I guess that's less disturbance, so that's probably why.
Mhm.
So you cut it off at this end.
okay, that's easy to do. I'll call them tomorrow and have them redo the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
So-
very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mary.
All right, thank you, Daniel.
Good night.
Good night. So. Now we have a little bit of time for our next meeting. So how about if we look at reports? How about the administrator's report?
Yes. So it has been a fairly busy 3 weeks. I think what I would like to point out in my administrative report is a few issues. One was at Sylvan Springs. Whoops. And this is a subdivision, if you guys remember, that we permitted a long time ago. I think 2007 is when we first permitted it. And it's on the border between Mendon and Upton. They've been working on the Mendon sites pretty much exclusively until like about a year ago. Mike noted on a near map that it looked like they'd started working. And so I took the tip and went out there to look at it. But this is the subdivision road. Sure enough, the erosion controls were in bad shape because they had been put up 8 years ago. And it looks like now the wetland flags, because this is so old, are pretty much gone. I found one flag. This looked to me like it was sedimentation in the wetland. So there's a pretty, from the road, he's cleared a few of the front areas of the lots. And so this is a kind of a channel that formed, and it goes several hundred feet. to that erosion control line, crosses the erosion control line, and ends up, I believe, in the wetland. So it's not super deep. It's not, doesn't cover a very huge area, but it's still in the wetland. They have been very responsive about most things. So I called them that day, and this is the rest of the road. There's no real issues there. And they had me out there, you know, I called them on a Thursday. They had me out there Monday or Tuesday and said, look what we did. You know, so they tried to put a channel along the road to catch some runoff. This is the area where it had been gullying. They set up a whole bunch of check dams. And then they created you know, kind of a little bit of a swale with a lot of rocks and a little, you know, temporary retention pond at the end of that with, again, you know, check dams at it. They did a lovely job reinstalling all the erosion controls. It looks great. But, you know, we looked at the wetland again. It's still not flagged and still a little bit of sediment. I don't know. It could be 4 inches or so in there over I don't know, 20 foot long, you know, 10 foot into the wetland area. You know, it's kind of hard to, I didn't even look over every leaf or whatever to see how big the area was, but definitely within the wetland. And they had not been submitting their, you know, weekly reports for quite a while, a long time. And so I met with someone from Desheng Wang's office. His name was Francis, and I guess he's been doing the reports, and he is supposedly going to start submitting them. But I haven't heard from him since I met with them on the 31st. And so I need to touch base to see, and probably they're waiting to find a wetland consultant that can get out there to flag it before they talk to me, would be my impression. But once it's reflagged, then we can just kind of see the extent of the damage within the wetland. And I guess, you know, you guys may want to formalize this with an enforcement order. Or you could wait and see what the wetland flagging turns up, but I'm pretty sure there's stuff in the wetland. So that is that, and maybe, yeah. So that is the situation with Sylvan Springs. Anyone wants to have any, or maybe we want to put this on next 2 weeks from now to decide whether or not to do an enforcement order.
But Mary,
Yes.
but in terms of immediate concerns, in terms of any more erosion, you feel pretty satisfied that that's taken care of?
Yes, I feel satisfied that they have done a really nice job. And even along the road, he went up and down the road, and any place that looked like it was going to go over the side, he put a little check dam. So he really did and he really was, they were very responsive, seemed like they wanted to do things right. Although they really should have, in their order, it does ask them before they start working Upton to contact us and let us know what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. I believe there was a change in site contractors, though, which may explain, you know, the lack of cohesion and the fact that this order is so old. It does have, it's not expired. They keep remembering to, you know, renew it, but I think this is one instance where you almost want to say, maybe you guys need to reapply because it's been so long and your wetland flags aren't up, but you wouldn't have to.
I think we should definitely put that on the agenda for our next meeting and discuss whether they need an enforcement order.
Yes.
Wow. Does anyone have a question or comment?
Now it's 7:15, so we can.
Okay, so we'll suspend this discussion until after our request for determination for 13 Hoffman Farm Road. Installation of a fence. Continue from 8/23.
All right, I think we have Katie and Robert here.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, everybody. We have one of our dogs that was willing to
Okay.
participate.
Okay.
I don't know if we can see him.
Yes, we can see him. Can you just
Okay.
explain what your fencing is?
Yep. So thank you all for taking the time to revisit the topic with us. We took the time over the last couple of weeks to think through the last conversation we had with everyone here. And as you can see in this drawing that Mary pulled up, we took a little bit more thought in the oval shape that we had talked about having the builder fill in. We wanted to fill with native plants. It was discussed a little bit last time. I had suggested initially blueberries, raspberries, and lilacs. Mary was kind enough to point out that lilacs are actually not native. I did not know that, so thank you, Mary. But there's already blueberries there. Would love to add raspberries, and of course are open to other native plants that we'd like to put in that area.
Yeah, and I believe kind of the open points on this one were, so, we had talked about, definitely we want the bounds in. The commission was thinking about whether or not to allow the fence. I think there was a question of whether maybe maybe the bounds would maybe go a little further. I don't remember, maybe further in the yard or in some way to compensate for the fact that the fence is within the no disturb zone. But those are the things we were talking about last meeting.
This is Marcella. I'm thinking that the fence as it was described should be fine. It sounds like it's not going to, that it might even be something, that's, the design of it sounded like it would not be permanent. It's something that you could easily reconfigure or remove. My concern might be that a subsequent owner might see this as an opportunity to put in something that requires a lot of digging and maybe, putting in cement posts or something like that. Could we just have something in there that says that this fence just sort of goes with the property for as long as these property owners have the land, and that, subsequent owners could either keep it as is or not be permitted to do anything more extensive as far as fencing goes.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, Marcella. And I think, well, this is a determination, so it does not get recorded or anything. However, the order of conditions for this lot is still open and needs a certificate of compliance. So if we can somehow connect that, and I think we would maybe have to ask Kevin Lobiser if he's okay with that. I don't think he should mind because it's not going to slow him down or anything. But to put that as a condition on if we can do that, because usually it's continuing, ongoing conditions. I don't know if we can add a new one.
Okay. Well,
we could amend it if we did an amendment. That could work.
Okay. If it's easy, that would be just one suggestion.
Do we have other questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, Mike, I have a question. Has the order of conditions been recorded?
Oh, has the order been recorded? I assume so, but I don't know off the top of my head.
Just wondering if they'd have to record it again for that change in the order.
Wonder if it's I wonder if we have that in.
Kevin's group probably recorded it, but that's an extra expense the homeowner would have to incur if it has to be re-recorded.
Right. If an amendment were to happen, then it might have to be re-recorded. Yep. And I don't think we can the certificate of compliance also needs to be recorded, but I don't think we can add a condition to the certificate of compliance unless maybe it's something that's written on the as-built. I don't know. That's
an idea.
Yeah.
Well, if it's easy and doesn't add expense, that's an option. It was just a thought.
There's a lot of pages to an order of conditions. So I imagine the recording isn't cheap. I don't know exactly what it is these days, but
usually $105, but it doesn't even. Yeah, that's what it is. I think.
105. Okay. The other question I have just about the blueberries. What type of blueberries are you proposing? Low bush or high bush?
I'm honestly not sure. I'd look to suggestions.
How dry is that area?
We've had a really wet summer, so it's a little hard for us to tell, but it doesn't, from what I can tell, even after heavy rains, it's not staying a puddle for long. It seems like it's draining pretty well. So I'd be open to suggestions of what type of blueberries you'd suggest.
It seems like on the other side, on the right, sort of where that right-hand corner, the fence that we want to install, there's some existing blueberries that have been, who knows how long they've been there, but those seem to be low. So I would assume that those might be low bush. I don't know if you still want to go with that, or again, we're open to whatever suggestions the commission has.
Well, if there's low bush in a similar habitat, I would probably go with that.
Yeah, I think that's easy enough to do. And it's my opinion that since the builder disturbed this area of the no disturb zone, that he should really be cleaning it up anyway. And maybe he'd be willing to do a few of the plantings. But if you would prefer to do the work yourselves, obviously that's your prerogative to make sure it gets done the way you want to have it done.
We'd like to start with having him do as much as he's willing to do. It's a big area that needs to be filled in.
Yeah.
And then we can put some finishing touches on it.
Would filling that area, since it was disturbed by the builder, would that all sort of be part of his existing order of conditions, since they're the ones who tore it up?
Yeah, that's his responsibility, along with removing the silt fence
and refilling it.
If refilling that line, I'm not sure that it would be nice if he did it, but I don't think we can ask him to necessarily.
Okay.
Because that's outside of the no disturb, and he can just say, well, I was planning to grade it that way anyway, even though it's just not nice.
Mm-hmm.
But he, it's certainly willing, it's worth asking him, because I feel like he likes to do things right, and hopefully you want to fix it for you guys.
And Mary, can I clarify? I know you said lilacs aren't native. Is it still something we could consider planting? It is one of my favorite flowers, or is it something that's kind of off limits?
Well, since this is the no disturb area, I think we would prefer not to have non-native plants there, but you have plenty of other places in your yard. I think that lilacs would be very appropriate.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for clarifying.
Also, lilacs and low bush blueberry probably wouldn't do well together. The lilacs would shade out the blueberries.
That's a good point.
And raspberries, I think there are native raspberries around. I'm sure there are. I don't know how easy it is to find them. Usually it's probably a non-native version, and they tend to kind of take over too. But I think you could probably find native raspberries somewhere, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely look.
I have a question for the Drakes. Would you be willing to re-record the order of conditions if we added something on about the plantings?
Be willing to record the order of conditions at the registry of deeds in terms of and paying covering the cost of the recording.
Right, with the new addition of these plantings. So
Well,
yes,
yeah, Chris, this doesn't have to be, the plantings can go under the determination. But if
Okay.
we were to put a condition about the fence, I mean, we can put that on a determination. We can write that on there, but it doesn't really have any teeth on the
Okay.
determination. And I don't think I mean, I guess you could just get a determination recorded, which would save getting the amendment done. I don't know. I have never thought about that. Usually you don't.
Is there a way to add anything to the certificate of compliance? Just a little note about this somehow.
And that would be a question. I can ask people at DEP about that. I've never seen that done because it specifically says continuing ongoing conditions, but there might be a way to, and I think you could certainly add something to an as-built, I would think.
Yeah, that's right. I think that would be an as-built has to be done anyway, so I think that would be probably the way to go.
Yeah.
do you have any other questions or comments from the commission? Any other comments or questions from the applicants?
No,
No.
How about the audience? Okay, so Mary, where do you see us going from here?
Well, I think it seems like to me like we're ready to issue, I would think, a negative determination of applicability, and we can put that condition about the fence on the negative determination, and then I can, research about how the best way to get that on an as-built. I believe, Kevin's engineers might be working on the as-builts right now, but it certainly hasn't been submitted yet. So
Okay, great. So, for the applicant, would you like to close this hearing now? That's usually a good thing.
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so we will, so we will close the hearing and vote to approve a negative determination. So, Chris,
I,
Alan, I.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
okay, that's a unanimous vote of the commission to issue the negative determination for this project for the fence. And so Mary will be in touch with the paperwork. So she's all set. So thank you. So we're all set. And so Mary, our 7:25 for 3:40.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So Mary, the 343 Minden Street, was that continued?
Just wondering, is Matt McFarland on from 343 Minden Street? Right, he's not on, but I did go out there today with his permission and took a few pictures actually while it was raining, and it is on the agenda so we can talk about it. I just would like to show you what is going on there. He has not really done a lot since we last talked to him. don't know how big this is for you, how easily you can see it. So this is the area that I was concerned about last time, where there's, you know, a flow of water coming down. He did install an extra wattle. It's holding a little bit. I feel like the water over here is dirtier than the water that's coming down here, but there's still flow there. This is what the kind of the top of his site looks like. This part's okay, and where the flow is, unfortunately, you know, it's raining as we're doing this and thundering, so I'm hurrying. So I didn't take a picture of where it's going down, but it kind of goes down over there. And it, you know, it's collect probably in a hard storm, it might go over here. And that's the picture we just looked at. Oh no, maybe it's not. You know, that's looking down towards it, and there it is. And here, I don't know, you can't really see. I tried to take a panorama. So, you know, the wetland is right here. You know, it's not the greatest. His silt fence. So here's a slope. Here's his silt fence. It kind of stops here. And the area where the water's coming down is over here. And I had asked him to install a straw wattle, which he did. But you can see here, there's also, you know, kind of murky water with sedimentation. I don't know. It's not really ideal. And there's not much we can do with the vernal pool, but this area actually looks a lot better. It's mostly grown in. There is a channel going in there with some flowage, but that water looked pretty clean. Well, relatively clean. The little channel flowing down off his road. And again, there's the vernal pool. So he has, you know, I had asked him, he said he was going to create kind of a little basin to kind of stop that stuff, you know, to stop that flow, which I had pointed out to him. It's been like 2 months ago or whatever it was. Maybe it's end of July, I believe, is when we last had him before us. So that's kind of the status. His work, you know, I know he has a funny work schedule. I believe he works nights sometimes. So that may be why he's not here. At any rate, I don't think we're ready to lift the enforcement order. And, you know, it's kind of stabilized, but he's not really done. The rest of this part's not the greatest, but he does have gravel on everything. About half of that slope has a nice gravel top, and that part looks fine. I didn't take pictures of the good part. So.
What would you recommend us doing now?
Well, I think I need to talk to him about, you know, beefing up the erosion controls, and maybe just come down a little bit harder on him on what he's going to do to, you know, kind of stop that stream. I mean, we've already issued an enforcement order. You know, maybe he does need some engineering work. I don't know. Or at least someone to give him some ideas on how to do it, how to fix that section.
Mary, do you remember what his plans were for that whole area that he was filling there?
So this is eventually, and the rest of it, he has done half of it. So he's kind of graveled the area. It's an extension of his driveway, and mulched like within 6 feet of the top of the bank on most of it. And maybe I might have some pictures from last time. I think so. Let's see what we can find here.
Mary, is that stream flow coming from across the driveway through the culvert that runs under the driveway?
No.
Okay.
It is coming from, and these pictures are really old. It's basically coming from, if you remember, Tom, he has that driveway, the flat area goes next to his garage. And then around the back side of his garage, he has a kind of a road going up past his garage all the way up to the, here. So here's his garage. And so this is now kind of a road. And so the water's flowing down this road and going down over the bank over here into the wetland. So it's a pretty long stretch of, smoothed area. Not super steep. It wasn't raining super hard. It rained pretty hard. Obviously there's something going on there.
So are you suggesting maybe wattles at the top?
Yeah, he could put wattles at the top. He could put more wattles. I think he just needs to do more stuff. And he maybe needs to, he had said, well, maybe he'll do a small detention pond at the top, something to kind of capture it.
Does he need to create a channel that's stone lined at the top of the slope or something? I mean, will there be a long-term potential for erosion here if he just gravels the top area but doesn't do anything about how the water is going down the slope?
Yeah, I think he needs to, if the top area, I believe, obviously it's not done, and I'm trying to remember if he had said he was going to try to create a lip which would capture it, which he does not have. If there was a bunch of gravel there instead of dirt, it might deal with the water better, I would think. If he had the whole thing graveled, like I think he's going to.
Do you think he needs engineer?
I guess, rather than trying to tell him what to do, just, tell him that we expect the water to be managed in such a way that there won't be a future erosion problem.
Yeah.
And let him figure out himself or hire an engineer to do it right.
Yeah.
I agree that you should hire someone to help him do it the right way.
Yeah. I will give him a call and let him know.
Do you have any other comments from the commission?
What? What? What?
Okay, so Mary, that would be great to contact him and let him know that we expect that he gets an engineer on board to help him do the rest of this correctly. And Mary, do you want to keep going with your report?
Yes. Sure.
We have another 6 minutes.
Okay, so that was Sylvan Springs. The other thing, and I'll wait till we have more time to talk about Stoddard Street. We'll be, I think you guys saw the email about DOT reached out to us because there's a culvert under 140 kind of near Prospect Street, and a sinkhole developed in the road. Maybe you've driven by it. They've got it honed off. And so they're going to need an emergency cert for that. They seem to have a good plan to replace it. They will be, it's a temporary fix though, because they're going to be redoing that culvert in a couple of years. They just haven't finished the design phase for that. I did do a site visit at 2 Dogwood Drive. I met with the writers, with Mike Antonellis and Joe Layden, and we did discuss several options. Joe wants to meet with Marcella, I believe, and talk with her before we talk about, before decisions are made or whatever. So that's upcoming, and I need to ask Joe exactly when he wants to do that. It's been about a week. Marcella and I made it out to 24 East Street for the appeal. Judy Schmidt was there, and she answered Val's questions. She gave him a good talk about what wetland plants are and wetland soils, and we actually, Marcella and I both left before it was over. Judy did not find any anything that indicated that there was a wetland that had been, that was nearby the house. And she said, I think she basically said there was no reason to doubt Ecotech's evaluation, and she has not made her decision yet, but this was an information gathering session. The homeowner and the contractor were also there, as long as like 3 lawyers, I believe, from the homeowner. So that was that update.
I have a question about that, Mary. I don't know if you got any more information, but as I was leaving, one of the things that Val had said was that this was like a water rights issue, because his well was not producing as much water, and he was concerned that the neighboring activity was the reason for that. If it is a water rights issue, where does conservation come in on that? Do we have do we have a role in that playing out, or is that something else he has to deal with altogether on with different people?
I don't think we would be involved. I just, I think this well has been an ongoing issue for him for more than a year. Mike Antonellis and I noticed looking at through the Google Street Map view several years back that there were water tanks outside his house. There have been water tanks outside his house. So he's clearly had issues with his well before this house was constructed. So.
Okay. Thanks.
And this is just a picture. Unfortunately, the contractor's not allowed to do any site work until this appeal is resolved. The erosion controls are holding, but they have about a foot of silt. But if it breaks through, it's going on to Val's property. So, and no wetlands are nearby.
So do we have any other questions or concerns about the East Street situation? Because we have 1 minute before our intent for 44 Milford Street.
I can just make a comment on the letter I wrote for the planning board. 108 Grove Street, they were trying to get a lot. I don't understand all the planning terminology, but they're trying to get a lot approved, basically an A&R lot. And one of their proposals to show that they should do the A&R lot with a large lot reduction was to show a subdivision plan for 108 Grove Street. And it just wasn't very practical to do a subdivision there because there'd be so much riverfront area impacted. I don't think it would be possible. So that was what that was. And now it's probably 7:45.
Yeah. What about 44 Milford Street? Notice intent.
Yeah, we just actually need to continue that.
Okay. So what date and time, Mary?
So we will continue it till the 27th. And guess we can keep it at the same time unless we want to move them earlier. Maybe we should do them at 7:15.
7:15 sounds great. Does anyone else have a question or concern about paying them at 7:15? If there are no other questions or comments, they'll be continued till the 27th at 7:15. And Mary, if you want to keep going with your reports, we have until 8:05.
Sure. Do we have anyone from 12 Stoddard Street here yet?
Yes.
You are here. Well, maybe I think we have time to address this now. And I will.
Can you hear me, Mary?
I can hear you.
Okay, thanks.
This is Laura Ball, and he is doing work at 12 Stoddard Street. And a neighbor or someone had called in and said there was work being done. This is the house. This is an area that was cleared. When I first did my site visit, I actually focused on, I took a picture here, but I didn't walk down here. I focused on the other side of the house. So this is actually, there's the house. This is a garage, right? Or a barn?
Yes, a garage.
And he's completely redoing the foundation for it. And he was unaware of the wetland permitting requirements. So he's been very cooperative. But this is, he did cut some trees down, but the stream is right behind this area. And he has since moved this pile of mulch or chips. And this is kind of looking toward, the stream runs along the back. This is next to the barn here, looking at the disturbed area and the equipment. Here's a stream. There really is, even though the work got very close to the stream seems to be fine. He has cleaned up the wood chips. A few that went over the edge there has been cleaned up. I did a second site visit and I took a walk around the other side and I discovered that in this cleared area, and he was very good to install erosion controls, but in this cleared area, this kind of area in here actually has skunk cabbage. You can see the shoots for next year.
Yes.
So this area, although there was a little bit of machinery and equipment in here, most of the vegetation, at least the kind of the undergrowth, the herbaceous vegetation, is still intact. Some larger trees were cut down. Probably he is going to get an engineer out there.
Yes, Dan McIntyre.
Yes, because he needs to do an NOI for his septic system anyway. So, and I asked him to get a wetland delineation. He has since moved the silt fence away, so it's around, protecting the skunk cabbage area. But that's one reason I ended up doing a stop work on him because there had been, actually alteration in the wetland. And this pile of chips was in the wetland because the skunk cabbage is over here. So this has been moved.
Yes.
So he did, after I told him he needed to stop, he had a concrete truck scheduled for the next morning. I did give him permission to get that concrete poured.
Thank you.
And I gave him permission to move these few rocks because they were close to the wetland area. But otherwise, he's not working back here anymore.
No.
So I believe the silt fence is pretty well installed with the wattles. It's been moved. He will have a wetland delineation done, and the engineer has just basically gotten started on the septic, so it could be a several months right before, or 1 or 2 months before we get a submission. So I think we just kind of wanted to show you what's going on, and maybe I would want to know if the board's okay with letting him continue to work on this wall, which is about, 20 feet from the edge. And I'm pretty confident that the silt fence along here is not within the wetland.
And Mary, can I say something, Mary?
Yes.
If you allow me to keep going, probably within 3 days, I would have like all the stone out of there, and I would like put, like I told you, I would rake everything and then put grass seed to stabilize. Would be maximum 3 days.
And then you'll
I'll-
be done with your wall and all the work on the barn by then.
Yeah, I'll be done. Yeah, in 3 days I'll be done, and clean out the like I would take all the stones out of there and rake the ground, and then I'll throw grass seed if you allow me.
I think that's a good solution. Grass seed in
Yes,
the disturbed areas.
yes.
This
And
is
then you
Chris-
wouldn't really be doing any more work there until your septic, right?
Yes.
Once you got this wall done, you're pretty
Yeah.
much done with.
Done. Yeah.
This is Chris. I would agree that that's a reasonable way to go forward. Do we have other questions or comments from the commission?
Oh, and I just want to say, I did talk with Lorable. You know, we typically, if people do a filing after the fact, we ask them to pay extra just to kind
Yes.
of, and he's completely willing to do that. So he will be
Yes.
paying extra for the regular filing.
Great. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Yeah, this is Tom. So is he
Hi, Tom.
putting- hello, is he putting in a new septic system or is it?
Yes, new.
Okay, so the old one is in the same area? Are they digging it out or what's happening?
Tom, Dan McIntyre, he's gonna talk to Mary because he's thinking, because nowadays he told me that the septic is much larger, and he's thinking and put on the other side.
Yeah, I think currently it's in here somewhere,
Yes, yes,
which is pretty close to the wetland.
yeah. That's his concern. And Mary, because the house on a part of the house has a basement, and if you're facing the house on the right side doesn't have a basement.
Over far side over here. Yeah.
Yeah, and he is already in contact to you or no, Mary?
I
'Cause I
haven't
know-
heard from him yet. No.
Because he's gonna contact you to choose you and him. I think he's gonna figure. He told me and Mary is gonna figure it out where it's gonna go. He's doing all the filing, like wetland. I know that the lady from Board of Health already contact me, and she said, "Oh, you're dealing with Dan McIntyre? I know him." So she calling him direct.
Yeah, and I talked with Lorable about on the filing, he should, you know, because a few trees were cut in here, he should, or his wetland scientist, whoever, should come up with some kind of a little bit of a restoration plan in here, I think.
Yes.
Especially now this lot would not be subject to the bylaw because the house is old, but you know, whatever kind of buffer we could get from the wetland, I think would be good.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Hearing
So,
none. Oh,
Maybe we want to vote to lift the stop work then.
okay. Let's take a vote to lift this up work. Chris Scott, aye.
I.
Alan, aye.
Thank
David,
you.
I.
Thank you, David.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
Thank you, Marcelo.
That's a unanimous vote of the members present. So lifting the stop work order is approved, and then I believe we have Dan McIntyre file the notice of intent, the septic system.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. y'all.
So Laurel, once you get that all cleaned up and done and grass seed, let me know.
Yeah, Mary, like we spoke, I'm gonna throw grass seed and then straws on top of the grass seed, correct?
Yep,
Thank you very much, Mary.
yep.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Oh, you're welcome. You too.
Bye-bye.
So Mary, you have another 10 minutes, I think.
I think I hit the end of the report. Yeah, the one thing I forgot that didn't make it into the report is I walked around with Marcella and Tom and we looked at the Mechanic Street property, but maybe Mike will want to talk, or Marcella will want to talk about that later.
Okay, excellent. How about the administrative report from Grace?
Oh, one thing I should, you guys may want to know, in case you don't read the report very carefully, I did get a resident calling, asking about the development at Five Forks Farm and very concerned that there were houses going in there, but he felt better once he learned what it was. So there was one complaint.
First, we have one set of minutes to approve from the previous meeting, August 23rd.
Okay, do we have a motion to any discussion about the minutes?
So moved.
Okay, is there a
Second.
Okay, let's take a voice vote to accept the minutes. Chris Scott, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
Okay, so that's a unanimous vote of the commission.
My screen for the financials. Here is our expense voucher. We got a quote for the Esri subscription, and then that is reimbursement for Mary for her mileage, and then the Reed appraisal for land stewardship.
Yeah, it's Mike. A Reed or for Gail Mann's invoice, a different account should pay for that. It shouldn't be paid for by land stewardship revolving.
Would you like
Thanks,
to
Mike. I was very confused.
Yeah, should that come out of the conservation expense account?
You mean the fiscal year budget?
Yeah.
It could come out of that, or it could come out of the conservation fund, I imagine.
Okay.
But it's what's the general?
Well, we still have $8,000 in there, so.
I guess, whatever people would like, just it's not a land stewardship
Okay.
activity, so it shouldn't come out of any land stewardship fund.
So which fund would you propose, Mike?
I would probably say the conservation fund, tell you the truth. I think that would reserve our general expenses. We're only not even halfway through the fiscal year for the general expenses.
Do we have any other discussion about that money coming from the conservation fund? Okay, so can we take a vote to take the money for Gail Mann's payment from the conservation fund? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Let's do a voice vote. Chris Scott, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
Okay, so that's a unanimous vote of the commission to take the funds from the conservation fund rather than the Land Stewardship Fund. So, Grace, can you make that change?
Yep.
Thank you. And so, here, this is our financial update.
I think we need a motion to accept the two other expenses.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept the S3 subscription and the payment to Mary for mileage?
So moved.
Second,
Let's do a voice vote. Chris Scott, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
It's a unanimous vote of the commission. So, do we have anything else, Grace?
Yep, that's it.
Excellent, nice job. Okay, so we have 3 minutes. One thing I just want to mention is to remind people to do the thing for the
ethics training.
Ethics training. And it has 2 parts. And Mary, do we have to give that paperwork to anyone?
Well, I think now you have to, if I remember correctly, you're like usually create an account when you do it, and make
Right.
sure you select that you're from the town of Upton, which I didn't, or so I messed up somehow. And then they can actually see it. And I know Kathleen has been tracking all you guys, and she showed me who had done it and who hadn't. And that was about a month ago. And about half of you guys had done it and half hadn't. So after a while, she'll start tracking you down if you haven't done it.
No, I did the other day, and it takes about an hour or so to do it.
Yeah.
So please take time to do that when you can. And with that said, we have 2 minutes. So 8:05 is our notice of intent for 10 Kiwanis Beach Road, construction of a single family home.
I guess while we're waiting, the other thing I did was look at the website a little bit. Grace, do we have an update of when the new website's going to be launched?
No.
It's taking a lot more work than people thought, but yeah. And Grace has been working really hard on it too.
Thank
And
you.
understands it better than a lot of people now.
Okay, we have the applicant or the representative for 10 Kiwanis Beach Road, or their engineer.
My name's Peter Lavoie. I work with DNL Design Group. I am the engineer.
So we need to hear the notice of intent. So, Mary, can you read that, please?
Yes, I can. The town of Upton, this town of Upton public hearing notice is hereby given according to the Wetlands Protection Act, that the Upton Conservation Commission will hold the following public hearings on Wednesday, September 13th. At 8:05 p.m., a notice of intent filed by New Generation Homes for the construction of a single-family house, deck, driveway, as well as installation of new septic and well and associated grading at 10 Kiwanis Beach Road, Lot 2.
Excellent. So, Peter, if you want to explain the project, please.
Okay, Mary, can you pull up the plan? The latest
Yes.
one?
I can. Trying to scoot it over. And maybe I just need to zoom out.
I mean, if everyone can see that.
There we go. I finally found the sidebar. You can barely see it.
That's good. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead. We'd love to hear your presentation.
Okay. So for the record, my name's Peter Lavoie. I work with D&L Design Group. I'm here tonight representing New Generation Custom Homes. We have a lot which is 34,000 square feet in size on Kiwanis Beach Road. Kiwanis Beach Road runs along the bottom of the page. We have Pratt Pond to the top of the page, which is to the west. This lot is an vacant lot, undisturbed, so it is wooded. It basically slopes from Kiwanis Beach Road to Pratt Pond. Basically, there is no wetland. The edge of the water is the resource, which is the pond. It drops right off. So there was soil testing done on the left side of the lot, as you see. So we're proposing a single family house up as close as we can to the road. Front yard setback is 30. We're basically at 32.7 feet from the property line. Front entry driveway to minimize the impervious area. We have a septic system to the left of the property where the soil testing was. We did get a good perk rate, so the system is small. So that also cuts down on disturbance on the lot. Most of the work is outside of the 100-foot buffer from the pond, as you can see. The only disturbance that would be in within the 100-foot would be for the proposed well, and the reasoning for that is that's basically the only location the well will meet Title V setbacks from the leach field. That's a 100-foot radius that Mary's following, and we have to be 100 feet away from the proposed well. So that's where we put the well towards the pond. So because we have to get a well truck towards the back to drill that well, we felt that we would be able to clear, because these people bought this lot, they want to see the pond. So to minimize the disturbance, we're kind of using that area twofold. One, to get the drill truck in to drill the well, and two, would like to see the pond, because we are going down the road. We will be proposing a proposed dock as we show on the plan. The proposed grade within the 100-foot disturbed area, which is roughly 3,300 square feet, is not going to change. The grade is going to stay the same. It's just the vegetation is going to be cleared as you see to the limit of clearing, which is also the wattles. The wattles will be the limit of clearing around the downhill side. We do show a stockpile area up on the front, the furthest away from the pond. We do also show construction entrance at the driveway location to minimize the mud onto the road. Our intent is to recharge the entire roof with the 2 recharge areas, one in the front and one on the left side of the garage. We also show a well pit up gradient from the well. So when they drill that well, the overflow will go into that well pit and not just directly out towards the pond. And it'll be in a small pit there. The total disturbance that we're proposing is roughly 14,000 square feet. There is another lot that is associated with this to the north. So to the north, there is a single family house, and then there is another lot on the other side of this single family house to the north that this lot is part of. So if you look at the plan, there is a note that because this is a 4-bedroom house, we're using the area on that additional lot and this lot to meet the Title V requirement of 40,000 square feet. But that lot on the other side of the abutters lot to the north is not going to be disturbed. That's going to stay undisturbed. We're not proposing anything there. We would not propose anything because it's not associated with this house. It's just that the area and the land come with it, so that would stay undisturbed. And like I said, the total disturbance on this lot would be 14,000 square feet out of the 40. So that's basically it. Any questions, concerns?
Peter, I have 2 questions for you. One is,
Yes.
did you get all the green cards back from people?
I gave everything that I received back to Mary this morning.
Mhm.
So I did give her all the receipts, and I also scanned them and emailed them to her, but I was going to the town hall, so I gave her everything that I had. So she has all the receipts, and I think I only received like six green cards, probably out of the 12. That's what I'm thinking. But they did go out 10 days prior to this meeting.
Okay, thank you. And my other
Yep.
question was, did the Board of Health review this yet?
Did the what?
Board of Health review this project?
They did review it. And I did talk to the agent, and they have approved it. It's just that I have to get them a revised plan because my previous plan, my client wanted a pool in the backyard, but after talking to Mary, we removed the pool, and so we also removed the pool and removed a lot of the grading that was in the back. I would like to say that the proposed grading on the original plan was basically all the way back to the setback line, the rear setback line. So that whole south corner went pretty far back. But after talking to Mary, we got rid of the pool house, and we just minimized the work within the 100-foot buffer for the well construction and access to the pool, to the pond.
Okay, thank you. And do we have more questions from the commission?
I'd like to hear Mary's report, or I asked some questions.
Yeah, as Peter said, we did talk about this when I initially looked at it, and Peter was unaware that there's a 200-foot buffer around ponds. This is part of the Upton bylaw, and we have a 100-foot no disturb around ponds, and he's been very good to comply with that. I would say pretty well as you could. I think, and I'm just trying to think, I think this is an unusual situation in terms of, the 200-foot under our bylaw, that's, it's called riverfront area under the bylaw. And one thing I did not bring up with Peter, because I hadn't actually reviewed the bylaw closely when we talked about the pool, I'm like, well, that's not going to work. But the bylaw does ask for an alternatives analysis to be done for work in the riverfront area. What is less clear is whether now riverfront area under the state act along rivers, you would be limited to disturbing only 10% of the riverfront area on the lot. But I don't think as far as I can tell, it's not the intent of the bylaw to carry that through, but it's actually, to me, it's unclear. It's maybe something we need to tweak our bylaw on, but this is maybe the first time it's come up. I'm just trying to think of a time where we've actually had a new build on a pond, and I can't really remember one. Maybe you guys can. So this is maybe a little bit of a kind of a test situation. But other than that, I think he's done a great job for what it is. Keeping the development 100 foot away, I think is great. And we may want to, you know, certainly in our order of conditions, the no disturb or the limit of work ends up being recorded, and that ends up being the kind of a no disturb for any future work. This would really be off limits, this, you know, kind of buffer area to the pond, which I think the commission would want. Let's see if I had any other comments or questions. I did talk to Peter, and you know, one of the conditions would be that the dock would need a Chapter 91 permit, and we might want to just, you know, as I learn more about Chapter 91 law, you can actually have several docks under Chapter 91 as long as they're permitted. But I think we could just say, you know, just limit it to one dock, you know, 4 foot wide. You know, I think the length is negotiable, but, you know, you don't need a ton of, and of course, Pratt Pond's small. You probably won't be wanting to put 5 motorboats there or whatever, but just kind of limit it in that way. And there is no DEP number yet. And then just Peter, and I don't know, the lot lines weren't staked. So I saw a lot of, like, in this area, there were a lot of just piles of what looked like an old porch and old docks. And obviously those should be removed, you know. Yeah, and the house was not staked when I did the site visit. I mean, this lot line is pretty easy to follow because the neighbors have it maintained. So I felt pretty comfortable that I had, you know, walked the area of the lot. Oh, and Peter, when you did your survey, did you find the little memorial thing down there?
No, I didn't. I was kind of surprised. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe you can just ask the owners if there's any significance to it or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think this project would disturb it in any way, but if there's anything significance to it, that the new owners might want to know.
Okay.
Mike, did you have other comments or questions?
Yeah, I do. I have one question initially. Is the land inside the 100-foot buffer zone, how is that vegetated right now?
It's pretty much all forested, and I guess I have pictures. I didn't take too many good pictures because it was so covered with trees. This is along the shore, but it's like pines and.
Okay, that's fine, Mary. I just wanted to know if it was basically undisturbed.
Yeah, except for, like, there's a few little paths through it like this. But this may be on the neighbors. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well,
there's the little stone memorial or whatever.
Does it have any writing on it?
It might. I couldn't read it. I didn't. It's, yeah. Or it could just be like, it could just be somebody poured a concrete block there for whatever. Maybe they had a dock. Who knows? It's a little far inland for a dock, though.
I'll find out. I can ask.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Mary, could you go back to the plan, please? So here's my 2 cents on this. Except for they're going to need a variance for any clearing in the 100-foot zone. The 100-foot zone, according to the bylaw regs, is a no disturb zone.
Right. So
I can understand, you know, that we allow perhaps in a variance a pathway to the well. I'll accept Peter's analysis that that's the only place you can put the well. And maybe a path to the dock, but I am quite opposed to vista clearing and leaving an area that is currently forested cleared for a vista. So I would be opposed to that. I'd like to see the minimum clearing, just again to access the site for the well and a path to the dock. because we will have to issue a variance for that. I would not want to issue a variance for anything else, any other disturbance within the 100-foot zone. Also, we probably are going to want bounds along the 100-foot no disturb zone. So it's my 2 cents for now.
Do you have other questions or comments from the commission?
This is David. Yeah, I just want to kind of echo what Mike said too. I would agree with that. As little disturbance as this went along. And I think Peter is the on the plan, there's sort of the wavy line going down. Was that like the proposed clearing area that goes down to the well and the dock? Was that sort of
Correct. Yes. The dash, the thick dash line would be the wattles, and then the wavy would be the limit of clearing.
And I guess the only thing I would say too is, in terms of dock, and I think Mary said that as well, if presumably they would only maybe want one dock. And I guess that would, since that shoreline is pretty undisturbed right now, if there's some way to, if it was a rather small, smaller, I don't know if a floating dock or just something pretty minimal impact would be great too.
Do we have other questions or comments from the commission?
Yes, this is Tom. I do have a question. I may have misunderstood you, Peter. Did you say the lot was enlarged to be 40,000 square feet?
Yes. So this parcel here comes, my clients are buying this lot right here, as well as a smaller lot on the other side of the abutter to the north. So there's another parcel that comes with this lot. So the total of the two is 40,000 square feet.
Oh, okay, that's, I just, so that is how it would be listed as one lot.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And then they have the rights to that lot where they're not proposing anything on it. They can't anyways. So you can see this little piece right here where Mary's going up and down. So that piece right there comes with the additional lot.
Okay,
So
I was concerned about the future.
Yeah, no, we could put something that would restrict any disturbance. We can't disturb that anyways under the Title V, because it has to be, we need, for nitrogen loading, we need to keep that natural. So we can't disturb that because of, it's going to be a 4-bedroom. So we need to have that area.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Or
There's
from
a lot of pines in here.
Do you have any questions or comments from the audience? So at this
Mary,
point,
I have one question to the board and to the commission. Mary, can you put the plan back up for a second? Okay. So my question on, I'm just going to try, I'm trying to figure out the width of the path that the commission would approve. So when they drill that well, they need to bring in 2 trucks. So how wide, I mean, I know you, I'm going to come up with something that's going to show it's going to be a little bit big in front of the well, which is further away because they need two trucks to drill the well. And then it would be narrow it down to the dock. That's my intent. So I can adjust this, but I just wanted to explain the reasoning why it looks wider on the uphill side. So, but I'll come up with I'll talk to my client and come up with a different arrangement that the commission can look at.
Peter, I would suggest there's a difference between temporary disturbance, even clearing of vegetation needed to get your equipment down there for the well, versus permanent no disturb. So,
okay, that's fine.
Talk to your client, think about those things.
Okay, I will. Thank you. I just wanted a little bit of kind of guidance what you were thinking. That's all.
any other questions or comments at this point? because I do believe that we need to continue this because we don't have a DEP number and there are things that need to be changed. And I would say here proposing where the bounds would go is also
Yes. Yep.
okay. So Mary, what time would you think this should be on for our next meeting?
Lost my agenda. Oh, here it is. Shall we do 7:45?
Sounds good.
This is Mike. I have one more thing to say. Just when you're thinking about bounds, Peter, that corner where the 100-foot zone touches the garage.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you need to give yourself some space.
Okay.
To walk around, mow grass around the yard or whatever you want to do. So, you know, I think a bound that was within the 100-foot zone would be reasonable there. You know.
Okay.
Everyone.
How many bounds, Mike? How many bounds do you think across the back? I know at the property lines, I'll put one at the garage. And you want one near the deck?
Yeah.
Or one right there?
Yeah, I think that'd be fine. And then
okay. So 1, 2,
like 4.
4, okay.
I guess see what it looks like and what other people think once it's proposed.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, other questions or comments? Hearing none, we will see you at our next meeting and hopefully you'll have a DEP number.
Okay, I'll make sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and we have 2 minutes before our notice of intent for 93 Parket Road, demolition and construction of single family house. So, Mary, can you read the public notice for this one, please?
Yes.
We have 1 minute.
Town of Upton public hearing notice is hereby given in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act. The Upton Conservation Commission will hold the following public hearing on Wednesday, September 13th at 8:30 p.m. Notice of intent filed by Eugene DePoto for the demolition and construction of a single-family home with associated driveway and site grading at 93 Crockett Road, map 13, parcel 43.
Okay, so do we have the engineer or the applicant to describe this project?
Yes, good evening. And for the record, John Federico with Guerrier and Hellman, engineer for the project. And tonight with me, I do have our client, Gene DePoto, who's on as well. He can jump in at any time, Gene, feel free to.
Thanks.
For this project here, and I'm not sure if you would like me to do a screen share or if Mary, you would like to pull up the plan at all.
You're welcome to do a screen share if you would like.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, great. Is everybody able to see everything on my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Okay, so for this project here, we have a existing single family lot. To the western portion of the site, where my cursor is here, essentially this is just a very steep hillside, fully wooded, fully vegetated through there, some large ledge outcroppings, and then everything does pitch from west to east towards Crockett Road as well as to North Pond. We do have Crockett Road right away that cuts through here, and then our portion of the site that is currently existing and developed is about plus or minus 23,000 or so square feet. On this lot currently, we have a non-conforming structure, and the non-conformities are in regards to the septic system and Board of Health setbacks. We also have a side yard non-conformity, and then we also have the setback off of the pond as well. Currently, we're about 22 and change away from the closest portion of the structure to where the edge of the pond is. For our proposal, we have been considering a couple of different options, but ultimately the Depotos would like to utilize this space for a retirement home. Just due to the current configuration with the house being built back in the 40s, there is a lot of renovation work that has to be done there, some work on the foundation and things. So once we started looking into overall costs for that, as well as timing, amount of disturbance and various things going on there, we feel that doing a new structure there would be a vast improvement on what any sort of existing conditions are. So previously we were in front of you all back in December of last year with a very generic house box on there. I forget the exact dimensions for it, but essentially through our discussions and our initial site meeting with Mary, we felt that around 30 feet or so is consistent with several other houses that are currently in that area. And essentially, we did kind of back ourselves from that 30-foot offset to the lake into what we currently have for our design here. So just to kind of briefly run through some stuff, this hatched area here is the existing home. We do have some deck areas off to the side on the southern portion, as well as on the eastern portion overlooking the lake. Existing septic system is to remain. We are just going to be extending the pipe connecting to the septic tank. And then we do have a gravel driveway here with some large landscape walls. And essentially, there's about I want to say maybe about a 16-foot drop off or so from essentially our road grade down to our lake or final grade elevation near the lake. And for our proposal here, we're generally trying to keep driveway a much smaller footprint than what was currently out there. We're going to be removing any of those landscape walls as well to help reduce any sort of impervious area out there. And all that area, particularly up in this portion where my cursor is all going to be returned to grass and some nice landscape features there. For the house itself, our clients have been working with Lindell Cedar Homes to essentially do a prefab type of design so that we can try to limit the amount of time and effort that's being spent on site with construction and try to keep any sort of impacts as relatively small as possible from a timing standpoint as well as from an overall impact standpoint. So with regards to that, we are going to be removing several walkway areas through here, and there is a outcropping of trees that are here that we will be taking down as part of that process. But essentially, we're trying to keep grading as close to natural as possible. So we are proposing a short retaining wall along one side of the driveway just to kind of blend in to what the existing contours are there. And then our grading towards the house portion and one of our decks is just going to be as minimal as possible using some 3-to-1 slopes just to try to keep everything as tight as possible there. I know Mary did recently complete a site walk and had a few comments for it. With regards to those, we do have some space to shift the house a little bit closer to the front yard setback. But after discussing some things initially with our client, we do want to try to keep the carport as much as possible there. And essentially right now, we would be holding about 33 to 35 feet, even with pushing it forward closer to that front property line, away from the high water mark for the pond area. I'll open it up to any sort of comments or questions from the commission members there. But feel free if you need me to reiterate anything, just to ask away.
Thank you. Mary, let's hear your report, please.
Yeah, and one of my comments was that there should be wattles or compost filter sock in addition to the silt fence. I imagine that's something you can change easily.
Yes, we do have a detail that we can update for that. If you want that in lieu of the silt fence, we can definitely do that. But not a problem to get that portion resolved there.
Yeah, well, in addition to the silt fence, wattles and a silt fence, that'd be great.
Not a problem.
So my notes on this lot, there's some things I really like about this lot. They have a undisturbed, pretty much kind of natural buffer along the shoreline here, which I would like to see maintained. Also, this lot has on the south side, there's this area is mostly trees. You can see it along there. And I think you will have to maybe cut a few trees that are existing for the house envelope, it looks like. But hopefully this area, the area beyond the erosion controls, can be maintained.
Yes, I think it will. It will.
As far as all that goes, we are going to try to keep any impacts as minimal as possible there. I believe right now we had about 20 or so feet off of the edge of the deck and house just for clear space. But obviously we'll work with Lindell Homes that if they only need 10 or 15 feet, we'll make sure that we maintain as much of that tree line there as possible.
Yeah, and I had a question about the driveway. Is it going to be gravel or like some kind of, is it going to be paved, or are you going to keep the...
At this time, we would like to have it as a paved driveway. Previously, this home was primarily used as a seasonal cottage. With the DePotos looking to move into this as a retirement home and year-round residence, Gene has noted that the upkeep for the gravel driveway has been a little bit tough there. So currently it is proposed to be bituminous concrete.
Okay. And there's no, are you proposing to do anything with the roof runoff or the driveway runoff?
Yes, so we did discuss anything for the roof runoff, and we are more than happy to get some roof infiltration chambers installed in there to help with some groundwater recharge. In terms of currently for the driveway, the existing conditions for the site has essentially the high point up by the road, and then everything just kind of meanders its way over the gravel and then kind of comes down the slope here. One of the photos from your site visit, I believe, does show some of that gravel that does kind of get washed down into that landscape area. For our proposal, essentially we're maintaining relatively flat through a good portion of this driveway. We do have a low spot here by our curve, so we are going to try to direct any sort of runoff towards that low spot into a vegetated area to allow that natural vegetation, whether it be trees, bushes, grass that's going to be growing there, to help filter out everything, and that would all be following the natural drainage patterns there. Also, by being able to direct that, we'll be trying to lessen any sort of possible erosion or any of that washing away of the stone that you might currently be seeing on the site.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then my other, as he mentioned, my concern was, while they have kept the house at 30 feet away from the lake, which is an improvement on the deck here. And you guys can't see my cursor, but it's okay. It does that, the carport, it is nice. They wouldn't, obviously, if they moved the house, they might, closer to the street, they might lose the carport, but it does seem like it would be a gain. There's still plenty of room in the driveway. I think it's about, this is 50 feet from the house, the setback there is 50 feet from the house to the road. So, a carport is nice. Then again, you are living on the lake. This is a lake house. It seems like the current house is, it's not the greatest in terms of the lake. Since you are doing a complete rebuild, It would be nice to see maybe a little bit further back from the lake just to improve upon the conditions. Because as you know, our if this were like the previous house, a completely undisturbed lot, you'd actually be 100 foot off the lake. Or if so, this is. It seems like you could do a better job of improving it. But I think we did also talk about this last winter. That's my opinion. I don't know how the board feels. So.
I have a question for John. Do you guys have the DEP number?
We have not received a DEP number as of yet. I did place a call earlier today over to them and was not able to get any clear answer there. So I will be trying to follow back up a little bit later this week and throughout the rest of next week to obtain that for us.
Okay, thank you. And you also have the green cards returned.
We did do certificate of mailing for that. Mary, if you haven't received a copy of that I forwarded over a little bit earlier today, I'll make sure that we do get that sent over to you first thing tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I feel I do. I've got green cards from both of our NOIs tonight, or some kind of feedback. Yes, I did get those.
And does anyone else on the commission have any questions at this point? Or comments?
And I guess, I wasn't thinking bounds here. I don't know that, I'm not sure where you would put bounds. A lot of the site is previously disturbed, but I was thinking of definitely trying to protect that natural area along the lake. It's like 5 to 10 foot of natural vegetation on the southern portion of the property, which is wonderful. I think that would be helpful. I don't know that it's difficult to put bounds on a lot like this because it's, it is developed, previously developed.
With regards to any bounds, if we did put those on like 100-foot buffer, we do have portions of the septic system that would be through that area. And then it is parts of the driveway as well. I do know from past site walks and discussions that we've had, at least anything natural vegetation wise, we are maintaining. I think there might have been a couple like rock features, if I'm recalling correctly, down there as well that, we're not intending to change or anything along those lines. If we were to do anything along those lines, would it be anything, significant that would be sticking up out of the ground? I know we do have like some existing patio area as well that we're currently not proposing to make any changes to. I'm not sure how that might work with those bounds, whether granite, concrete, pheno marker, or anything along those lines.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm trying to think of how to address this or, what the commission thinks. It can be written into the order, which would then be recorded in perpetuity about maintaining those areas. But maybe people do need a visual on the property to help remind them. So it could really, you could have like, I would think maybe one along the shoreline, kind of in the middle, just showing the current edge, behind the shed somewhere, the current edge of vegetation and lawn, just kind of let's keep it like this. And then perhaps one or two along that, the south side has trees, and there's actually a few trees on the north side, but it seems like it's a smaller area
Yes, there is some pretty tight vegetation through here. I know we'll try to maintain some grassed area just around the house, just for maintenance purposes. But I do believe at least anything, within 10 feet of that property line, we shouldn't be having really any sort of impact to the tree line there.
John, I have a question. Where you're going to use the current septic system, did you need to go before the Board of Health?
So we have previously already spoken to the Board of Health on that. Paul McKeon has signed off on the system as being compliant. Title V has been completed on it as well. We did make a few minor upgrades to it for the pump system and getting some venting put in there. And as far as everything goes, Paul is satisfied with the condition of everything. We're not proposing to increase any sort of flows. And essentially, as I mentioned, we're only going to be extending the inlet pipe from the tank to the new foundation. Currently, it's like maybe like 5 to 7 feet away from the tank, which is out of Board of Health compliance. So we'll be proposing about 17 feet or so to make sure that we meet both the side yard setback as well as maintain an appropriate amount of distance off of that septic tank and pump chamber as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Any questions or comments from the audience? Because at this point, Mary, I think we need to set a time in our next meeting to continue this hearing.
All right. Shall we do 8 o'clock?
Sounds good. So 8 o'clock on the 27th. And
Great.
hopefully then you'll get the DEP number.
I think
I'll
we need
make
to,
sure I do follow up on that end for it.
and I think we need a vote to continue it.
Okay.
So moved.
With a second.
Second.
Let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Aye.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Micah,
Marcella, aye.
It's a unanimous vote of the commission to continue this until the 27th at 8 p.m. So for now, you guys are all set. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Just one other additional thing to add in. I know, I believe I spoke to Mary in an email about it. I did not have a stockpile area shown on this plan. We were intending to have a possible stockpile area where part of the existing driveway is once we take down a few of those landscape walls. I'll make sure that that's shown on the next revision as well as with erosion control around it. If it has to be wattles and the silt fence for that portion, not a problem. I'll make sure at least the note's clear on there.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a good night. Okay, so now we are back to our reports. And how about Open Space Committee update?
I learned earlier this week that the department DCR had voted at their land acquisition meeting to pursue acquiring the land between North and Westboro roads. So that was a good thing. The Open Space Committee is meeting tomorrow night, and we're going to look at basically a conceptual plan that Mike has put together showing that the land at 47 Mechanic could be subdivided in a way that would permit us to seek a large lot frontage reduction special permit, which would result in fewer legal lots on the property. So tomorrow night we'll be looking at that and talking about next steps. And that's it.
Thank you. How about Land Stewardship Committee?
Yeah, we Tom and Mary and I joined Dan Stimson for a walk through the area that the proposed trails are on the Mechanic Street parcel. Dan seemed fine with what we were proposing. We had discussed and kind of put on the back burner the notion of a parking spot off of Mechanic Street, but Dan sounds like they want to pursue that. That would mean one more wetland crossing, and Mary and I were going to go over there and just take the auger and see exactly how much of a crossing that would be. I think it's wetter there than we think it is. So we'll get those answers so we that would affect our filings. And, we just need to make sure we have all the measurements of our crossings, and hopefully we can keep it all at a minimum. Dan was suggesting perhaps at the crossings to have something substantial enough that horses could cross it with a pea-stone surface, which would be a safer option for horses, and for getting traction. But I think we realized that was probably unnecessary. They're putting boardwalks down for pedestrians and having the horses cross. Most of the crossings there would probably not suffer too badly with horses going through the wet area. It's mostly shallow, and at this point we don't see that much horse traffic. I suppose it would also be affected by cyclists, but again, we would have less of an issue with taking up square footage for the crossings if we could just put boardwalk, boards down that would be about 2 feet wide. So Mike did respond to Dan today, and we're going to be, I think we'll continue discussing this with Dan and SVT, and that's where we stand with that right now. Mike, if you want to add anything, feel free. And Mary and Tom as well, if you have anything you want to say. Please
no,
do so.
thanks, Marcel. I mean, I think you summarized the crossing issue. I would prefer them to be, most of them to be narrow boardwalks, like you said, maybe 2 feet, and then horses could ford these intermittent streams. I think the substrate's pretty bony, and I think whenever we can avoid having a horse cross the boardwalk is a good thing. Just from a safety standpoint, even if the boardwalk has pea-stone. The other thing, just in terms of the parking lot, I think this was discussed a little bit at the land stewardship meeting. It's possible that a notice of intent will be needed for that parking lot. And then I guess the question comes, do we want to separate out the trail crossings, the trail work with just with a request for determination, as we've talked about before, and then have an actual notice NOI for the parking lot, which I imagine, could have some erosion potential. And anyway, maybe Mary, if you could jump in on that question.
Yeah, I think it might make sense to separate the stream crossings from the parking lot, especially since the timing is different probably for construction, right? And then it just simplifies the getting the stream crossings approved, and the parking lot, if it's, I believe it's going to end up being pretty close to the wetland, right? Within 10 or 15 feet, I think.
Well, I think it's going to have to be. Yeah. I think we'll know more once we get an auger in there. For all we know, the whole parking area is wet.
It's low there.
Disturbed, the vegetation doesn't tell us anything because it's been, a pasture, and we won't know till we see the soils.
Yeah. So.
Do you think we might need to hire an engineer to draw out the parking lot?
We'll have to see.
We or SVT?
That's a good question. Someone, although we did, I think in that agreement we had with them, we said we do the permitting, but I don't know if permitting includes drawing a plan, and that might be on them, but I'm talking about it, but anyway, I mean, if there's some earthwork being done and there's a wetland delineation to be shown on a plan, we might want to ask for a drawing for that. And it's not something I would be comfortable doing with GIS. I'm happy to do the trail crossings, show where they are, but not, can't really play engineer with the GIS.
Mhm.
Especially if you're gonna, you know, even if that field ends up being not wetland, you may want to bring in a little bit of fill to level it off or whatever. I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it in terms of parking lot when I was crossing it, but
Well, they're gonna, I mean, there's gonna have to be something done there. You know, Dan didn't seem too worked up about the sight lines, but I think that, you know, whatever in and out, you know, is going to be happening in that driveway, we need to consider how that's going to happen. It might need to be pretty wide, and you know, if people, and there's a little bit of a slope, so they're going to have to level that off so people aren't going up and trying to see what the road conditions are. So, yeah, an engineered plan might actually be very valuable here, because I don't know much about how to design parking lots and, you know, driveways and such. So that's probably wise. And Tom, did you have anything that, you know, you wanted to add regarding the walk?
No, I mean, no, you pretty much summed it up fine. As far as an engineer for the parking lot, I don't know if we'd want to get an engineer before we find out whether or not it's wet or not.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, if we can build it there, then we should probably get an engineer.
Okay, well, Mary, I don't know, my schedule's kind of all over the place, but if, I'll get in touch with you. I don't know what your availability might be this week or next to take a look over there, but we can.
yeah, next Monday, I think next Monday morning would work good for me.
That sounds good. Let's plan to do it Monday.
Okay.
And what time were you thinking?
You can name the time, whatever's good for you.
Is 10 good?
10 is good.
All right. Well, see you then.
And we'll maybe park at Stefan's. I'm trying to think where you park, or I guess maybe you
That's
can find.
probably the best bet. Yeah, it's not that long a walk, and we can be careful.
Too bad Sandy's not on the call. We could park at her place.
Yeah, really.
I might join you if I'm available.
Great, thank you.
This is Bill. Would you need to get into the area that the Knox are using for their paddock?
Yes.
Because if you need to talk to the Knox anyway, they probably let you park at their place. So do you want, I know Agneta, and I actually know both Agneta and Bill. Do you want me to contact them and tell them that we'd like to get on into that area?
Sure.
All right, I'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Anything else, Marcella?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Now, under our discussion items, we already talked about 12 starter. How about the special town meeting warrant article, amendments to Upton Wetlands bylaw? Is there anything we need to talk about there?
Yeah, so we had previously approved that we were going to drop the RDA from the requirement for abutter notices. We approved that at the last meeting. And as I was going through the bylaw, I found two other places where I felt like changes should be made, and I should pull that up for you guys to look at. All right. Hopefully we can see this. Right, so that's just the introduction. This is what we talked about with the abutter notice. And then the other thing I noticed is it says the bylaw has a thing about fees. The fees shall not exceed $500 for a single family house, etc. And at the moment we are maxed out on our fees. Our single family house is $500, and actually I believe we're above the 50 here. We're at 100 for anything else in a single family lot. So my proposal was just to drop these caps, and, you know, just drop it entirely without trying to come up with a new cap for that section. And then the bylaw also, it only allows one renewal of a permit. Okay, so after 3 years after a notice of intent has been issued, you can renew it. And our bylaw actually says you could only renew it for 1 year and then you're done. That is a little extreme. I felt like we should change it to 3, which mirrors the state act. And I left in place that you can only review it one additional time. Even though the Misco Springs, I believe they've renewed it 4 times, which that's another discussion for another time. But I think if you guys want to leave that renew it once on there, that seems reasonable, especially since it does say that we can issue, like if someone expects that their permit is going to take a while, we can issue a 5-year one. And then, you know, they could potentially have another 3. So that's 8 years. That does seem relatively reasonable for a project. So those are my recommendations for changes for the bylaw. And we had not talked about these before.
These were submitted as a placeholder and we just need to approve this.
Yes, that's right.
I would move that we approve the changes for the warrant article.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
It's a unanimous vote of the commission. Thank you, Mary. Now, policy regarding voucher approvals.
All right, and Mike came up with this idea, and I think it's a good idea. Approval of vouchers shall normally occur only during a posted commission meeting. The commission chair, vice chair, and treasurer, however, have the authority to approve payment of invoices and sign related vouchers between meetings if such payment needs to be expedited as recommended. The payee must not sign vouchers. Vouchers must be disclosed to members at the next commission meeting. And this came up because Dave Picard, needed to be paid for his Governor's Landing work and was just requesting that the payment be expedited. And we had previously hired him and obviously approved his work, so I assumed it was going to be paid. So this is how it came up. So it seems like this is a reasonable policy to have in place and just allows us to operate more efficiently if something like this happens in the future.
Does anyone have a discussion point? If not, can we have a motion to accept this?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
It's a unanimous vote of the members present. Thank you. Now we have letters from 15 Harvard Ave North and 12 Plain Street and 52 Elm Street.
Right, so the 15 Hartford Ave North one came about as a result of our filing at 11 Hartford Ave. Both the homeowner at 11 noted, what was happening over at 15, and I could see it myself. So just a letter talking about asking them to remove their yard waste. And it's mostly leaves. So
give a motion to approve this letter.
So moved.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
Unanimous vote of the commission.
The second letter here is going to 12 Plain Street, and you will I think you guys will remember that this is the property near Kathy Taylor's, where they had been cutting down cattails and expanding their lawn. And then the property changed hands, and the property owner is now Mr. Thackerberry from 12 Plain Street, and he continues to mow the area that is, as we discovered looking at Kathy's, the wetland line. They're mowing into the wetland, and they have been doing that for several years. So, so we're going to hopefully he'll be willing to come to our next meeting and talk about it. And, that's what it states in the letter.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve this letter?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
Okay, let's do a voice vote. Chris got aye.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
The unanimous vote of the commission. And our last letter, which was 52 Elm Street.
This one is something that Dave had brought up, and I did look at the aerial pictures, and they definitely did some work near a pond. I think it was kind of an overgrown, brushy area that, may have been full of blackberries and, multiflora rose. I don't know what all was in there. Dave, maybe you have a better idea. It was just definitely overgrown. And they have completely cleared it all out, put in a lawn, and it gets pretty close to a pond in back. I think the pond does probably have some connectivity to, this is the place, if you're familiar with the house, it's right on the corner of Kiwanis Beach Road and Elm Street. It's that really old, it may be the oldest house in town. It's like a 1700 house, a nice gray house. It looked to me like there was some connectivity. There was a channel from the pond heading toward the lake, probably across the road. I'm not sure on that, but I'm pretty sure there was connectivity there, in which case it would be subject to the state law. So it seems like we could go a number of ways here. We could just write them a friendly letter and say, hey, we noticed this happening. Just please be aware that there's wetlands on your property, and don't do it again type thing. Or we could ask them to, appear before us, maybe do some natural plantings kind of near the pond. It's hard to get a sense of exactly how close they were to the pond, but probably within 10 or 15 feet, because I didn't go on the property. So that's kind of this letter. We could go a couple ways with it.
Yeah, and Mary, I was just going to say, because we look at that a lot, and it seemed like you said, they left about maybe 10 feet there were cattail and some other stuff right around, and that one is mapped as a potential vernal pool, not certified yet.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But it did seem like you said that there was some connectivity to that flowage going down as well. So
yeah.
And one thing I would note, Mary, in the letter, Andrew Benjamin's name is misspelled.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I only knew it was the red line.
I need that.
The other thing, Mary, you need to give yourself a promotion from agent to administrator.
Oh, Oh, good point. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this letter?
So yeah, so I guess I'm looking for direction as to whether to just kind of leave it as a, this is a reminder, or whether we want them to appear and just kind of talk about maybe a little bit of restoration. So
I think they should come to our meeting.
okay.
Any other comments or questions from members of the board?
Yeah, I'd like to talk to them about restoration.
Yeah.
This is Bill. I think both letters are missing the word "to" in turning the matter over to the Massachusetts Department.
Okay.
Okay, with those corrections, do we have a motion to accept this letter?
So moved.
Second.
Let's do a voice vote. Chris, aye.
Aye.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
That's a unanimous vote of the commission. Thank you, Mary, for writing these letters. And do we have anything else for tonight? So, hearing none, good job, everyone. And Mary and Grace, we appreciate all of your work. And we have a motion to adjourn.
Oh,
So moved.
Grace just put a nice note in the comments about the public hearing for the warrant article, but I think we could just put that on the agenda without talking about it tonight. So we do have to have and I haven't walked through this procedure before, but because we're altering the bylaw, we have to hold a public hearing for that before it goes on before town meeting. So
Can we do that at our next meeting?
I think Grace you had scheduled it for the 11th. I'll check with Joe to make sure, or Mike, what the proper procedure is. But yes.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mike, aye.
Aye.
Anyone
David, aye.
opposed? Anyone opposing?
No, I want to stay here all night.
No, hearing none. Good job, everyone.
Night, everybody.
Thanks, Chris.
Good night.
See you guys.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Mary, Grace, great